Hey guys, how are ya? Quick one today. It was just a thought that's been going through my head, I guess, for the last couple years. I think it's the end of an era. And I think really the video I made yesterday about modern warfare is sort of, it really hit home to me that we're sort of at the stage where I guess all the big gaming multiplayer franchises that I grew up on and people around my age grew up on over the last 20 years, it's sort of hit a hard stop where I think they're all obviously they're all going, and it's a sad time because they've all been filled by, I guess, free to play live service. Not all of it's junk, but a lot of it's junk, and mainly I'm talking about, I guess, Battlefield, Call of Duty, Halo. Halo's pretty much dead and gone. I know they're trying to revive the series with just single player remakes, which is something I really don't understand. Bringing back, an Unreal Engine 5 version of Combat Evolved, the campaign. I don't see why they would even invest or even try to do that because we can, I know they're doing different things, but anyone can go play the older versions of them. I think they did anniversary editions where they upgraded the graphics from time to time anyway. Doesn't need to be some really flashy new, I guess, gaming experience. And I guess it might be a good idea. I guess their whole philosophy behind it is to get people who've never played, like the younger generation of gamers who are coming through to play these older titles, with a fresh coat of paint to sort of build some hype amongst the franchise. Though I don't think just releasing a single player title is really going to be able to do that. Um, and obviously, so look, Halo's pretty much gone. If we look at Halo Infinite, the last multiplayer release, it's like holding like nothing as far as a player count goes. It holds like 600 to 1,500 players a day, at any point in time on Steam. And I guess, obviously it's only played on Xbox and PC. It's not even a PS5 title, obviously, because it's Microsoft. But yeah, that's a completely sort of dead franchise from the one of the biggest multiplayer franchises in the world, if not the biggest at the time when Halo 3 was released, um, to ash to nothing. And then we saw Battlefield go through it a bit earlier than Call of Duty. And then Battlefield 6, while Battlefield 2042 was just an absolute flop, and that couldn't hold a player. Coming from games like Battlefield 1, Battlefield 3, and I guess even Battlefield 4 and 5, I mean, they held a lot more players than what Battlefield 6 is currently sort of holding for being released in like October last year. Um, but Battlefield 6 I guess they had a pretty good resurgence. They had a really good launch, but they couldn't keep it up. And it sort of seems like they're a bit dead in the water. Their updates have been very lackluster. They're not holding many players in there. They released, they tried to adapt, I guess, and go to the free to play model by releasing their battle royale, but they were a bit behind the mark on that, obviously, and that can't hold that many players because battle royales have been around for a while now, and it's a very saturated market. And it has to be something very fresh, new, I guess, to hold a large amount of consecutive players, and it's just not doing that. And then we have Call of Duty, and the video I made yesterday about Modern Warfare 4 and how, Infinity Ward seemed to be doing the right things, but I feel like Activision in general is just missing the mark on why the franchise is failing. It's really because, as everyone knows who's ever played Call of Duty, it's the same game every year. It's the same 6 to 8 hour campaign, whatever that is, followed by a multiplayer experience that is just very similar. Like if you play Call of Duty now and play Call of Duty 10 years ago and even 20 years ago, it's pretty much the same game, but they seem to keep ruining it and people just hate what they keep doing to it. Um, and some people might look at that and might think that really doesn't make sense as to why to be failing. As you look now on the most played games on Steam, like Counter Strike today had 1.5 million peak players at one point. It's holding number one right now, 641,000. But that's a total different sort of formula they've had. Call of Duty makes you pay a full price up front of like 100 Australian dollars, if not more, 100 up to 130 sometimes, depending on what pack you buy, which is just a waste and a bit of junk anyway. Call of Duty obviously did pretty well when MW19 was released, um, with Warzone, and Warzone was a pretty big hit, but once again, they caught it at the start of that battle royale sort of mania at the time. But then they once again destroyed it by not having enough sort of content. So yeah, I mean, these three big franchises is really just a reflection video because it's pretty sad to me how, I grew up on these games and I'm sure a lot of you did, and seeing how they're going to, I guess, to waste because they had such a heritage, they had such a vibe to them back in the day. Like, remember, you guys probably remember Halo back in the day, LAN parties, like how much hype was around Halo at the time, how much fun it was. And then unfortunately it got put across to 343 and went downhill from there. And I'm glad it's not in Bungie's hands anymore anyway with what they're doing. I mean, their decision to shut down Destiny 2 seems absolutely ridiculous because Marathon's in the gutter and lost all its players, and it's really not a good game at all. It's a terrible game. But it's very sad to see Halo in the sort of state it's in. Battlefield, I don't think they're ever going to sort of get out of the hole unless they design that game from ground up differently. And Call of Duty, yeah, they keep pumping out the same thing every year and wondering why they're going backwards, especially after the last couple of years with Black Ops 6 and 7, how terrible games they were. I don't know how anyone who was making those games thought they'd be successful. Yeah, it's a bit of a reflection upon, and I guess, when you think about why these games are failing, obviously you pay full price up front for these games and they don't produce anything to keep playing them. They don't give you an incentive to keep playing them. The content is sort of crap. You play it for a couple of months and it seems like you've done it all. You have these big staples like Counter-Strike, which are, I mean, they've had very similar sort of gameplay for, I guess, the time they've been around, but they've got like a sort of a cult following and they never really stopped what they did, where these other franchises like Halo, Battlefield, and Call of Duty have just regressed over time. Obviously, Counter Strike. A lot of people weren't happy with Counter Strike 2 at the time, this and that, but it's managed to keep a big player base. PUBG, like OG battle royale game that seems to have done the right thing, obviously by the player count with the updates they've done, and to keep that player base around, even though people hate PUBG. They always say they hate PUBG, but the player count is massive. And Apex Legends, a lot of people talk shit about Apex, but today it had a 257,000 concurrent players at one time, which is massive. And I guess when you reflect on it, there are games that have sort of adapted. You could say with Warzone, Call of Duty tried to adapt, but they really dropped the ball on content and updates. Like, people are still like, Verdansk is still there. Like, what are these maps doing? They're the same thing for like its whole life cycle now. You look at Fortnite with how crazy Epic went into, I guess, keeping their live service aspect, keeping updates, keeping something fresh about the game. Like the whole meta, the whole game style of Fortnite changes. And this is something I was talking about yesterday in my Modern Warfare video. It's the same thing over and over. They keep focusing on movement mechanics, but they're all the same. There's nothing special and new. It's still the same kill streak system. You got Fortnite, which changes the game every single update almost. Like the abilities they give you in the game, the gadgets, I guess, the guns, everything does something totally different and just changes the whole game in general. It's just a big sandbox that's constantly shifting. But then we can look down, I guess, like I was saying, and see something that's sort of, I'd say, successfully transitioned, because you have like Rainbow Six Siege. That was a paid for release, and then Ubisoft did Siege X, and they made it free to play, a stripped back version of the game, and it brought a lot of players in, and it's been pretty successful. I mean, this is a game that came out in 2015, I think, and it's number 22 on the list. Like, that's pretty good considering how big of a giant Call of Duty is, and you come right down to see Call of Duty, and it is sitting at number 48, which is pretty alarming, I guess, with the decisions they've been making. And then Battlefield 6, massive launch last year, huge launch, and like, how well are they doing? Well, you scroll down and you look at Battlefield 6 at 54. You have a game like Skyrim that came out like over 15 years ago, and it's sitting at more players, a single player game. Great game, but I mean, sitting at more players right now than Battlefield 6 is. And it's just going to make you wonder, all these franchises are dying. What are we going to be left with? These new entries aren't working. It's such a shame, but I guess there's not much room for these types of games anymore. These full priced 6-hour single player campaign games and lackluster multiplayers. So yeah, anyways, just a bit of a reflection, just a bit of a thought. What do you think Do you think there's anything these franchises can do to like sort of reignite the player base and get people back in? Maybe it's just a sign of, I guess, a generation of players that grew up on them that is no longer gaming anymore. And then you have these, younger generation growing up on things like Fortnite, which seems to be quite adaptive and, keeping a player base, same as CS. Um, but yeah, it's hard to put your finger on. Well, not really when you lay it all out. It's quite obvious. But yeah, just a bit of a reflection. I really hope Halo, out of all those franchises, comes back strong. They're not going to do it with their single player entry. I think it's just a dumb idea. But they should have released something big on multiplayer. But yeah, just a reflection, guys. If you have any thoughts about it, let me know in the comments what you guys think. Do you think these franchises? Do you think it's the end of an era, really? And I think it is. But let me know what you guys think. Like, subscribe. I'll be probably making videos daily, so yeah, put your notification on if you'd like. But leave me a comment below. Let me know what you guys think about the situation, and yeah, I'll see you next time.